Welcome to Between Frequencies, the space where science, spirit, and intuition meet in real conversation. I'm your host, Erin, and this podcast explores the tools that help us navigate the unseen, the energetic, and the often unspoken parts of our human experience. Today's guest has turned a lifelong curiosity into a powerful form of inner guidance. I'm joined by Laura Meleney, dream interpreter, published author, and the intuitive behind the growing Dream Woman community. With vivid dreams that began in her teens and a passion for decoding their deeper meaning, Laura has spent years helping others uncover what their subconscious is trying to tell them. From one-on-one sessions to TikTok lives and her monthly dream journaling group, Laura offers people a direct path into the heart of their inner world through their dreams. What started as personal exploration has grown into a supportive, empowering space where dreamers of all backgrounds can find insight and clarity. In today's conversation, we'll dive into how Laura interprets dreams, what common symbols really mean, and how you can begin unlocking the messages in your own dreamscape. If you've ever woken up wondering, what was that about? This one is for you. Let's get into it. Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us here on Between Frequencies. I'm very excited to have you on. You and I have spoken before, and you have kind of become my go-to dream interpreter. So I'm very happy to be able to share your gift with other people today. So I want to kind of start at the beginning a little bit. So can you take us back to when dream interpretation first caught your attention? Like, what made you realize that your dreams were more than just random images?
Yeah, and I'm very honored that I am your go-to person for dreams. I super appreciate that. That's wonderful. So actually for me, it started back in high school. I was just really a vivid dreamer back in high school times, and I just had some crazy dreams. I don't remember one specifically necessarily around that time, but I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, that is so wild. Like, what did that mean? Why did I dream that? It has to mean something, you know? And I started grabbing dream dictionaries and kind of doing research, and then it led to doing papers and on high school in high school whenever I could. And then it just kind of went on from there.
Yeah, I think that's something that all of us kind of deal with. We have these crazy scenes, these crazy lives we're living. We wake up and all of a sudden we're like, what in the heck was that? Something that I have found, I have very active dreams as well, but I have found that when I look at dream dictionaries and stuff like that, it can be really confusing because there's many different interpretations for things, which is kind of why I like your approach. I feel like what you offer is a mix of your intuition as long as in addition to everything else that you've kind of gained along your journey. So I'm curious, what was the turning point where you shifted and decided to just stop interpreting your own dreams and start helping other people with theirs?
Yeah, so I for years and years I kind of want, you know what, I'd have spells where I'd be really into it and journaling my dreams and figuring it out. And then I'd go a couple years or months where I didn't pay that much attention to them. And I, you know, being in high school and then shifting over into adulthood, there would be gatherings or just conversations with friends, and they would randomly bring up, "Hey, you were in a dream I had," or "I had this really wild dream last night that such and such." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I might be able to tell you what that means because I've done so much of my own looking up what my own means." And so then people started realizing, oh, they could just come to ask Laura the next day about it, and I would usually be able to help them figure it out. And then I didn't do much of anything with it for a little bit, and I learned how to do tarot a couple years ago. And I was kind of looking for an outlet for like a side business or to like kind of start practicing that. And then I got onto TikTok and I realized there's a lot of tarot readers out there that are absolutely wonderful. But I know my real bread and butter has always been the dreams. And
Yeah,
so I'm like, why am I not doing anything with the dreams? So
right.
I switched gears and I do both, but I really drive home the dream interpretation because you don't see a lot of folks like specializing or really highlighting that as much as some of the other modalities out there.
Yeah, not live at least. I see a lot of dream books, but I don't see a lot of people who are saying, "Hey, let me sit with you and have this conversation. Let's make it a two-way street and we can talk about it instead of here, this is what it is." And I really like that because you are working with them as well as yourself, helping pull the answer out of them. Because I truly believe that we all know all the answers to our own questions. We just refuse to see it. And it can be very helpful to have someone else sort of point it out to you. And then in yourself, you're like, oh, yeah, I kind of knew that, but it's really nice to get the validation and the help from somebody. I'm curious, you do tarot as well. Do you ever use tarot to help with dreams, or are those two kind of separate things? Do they ever work together?
They can. I don't. So I do have like a special that I run where you can sign up to have a dream interpreted and a tarot reading to get deeper insights because I don't you need to use like cards to do dream interpretation at all, but sometimes they can help you go just a little bit deeper or ask some deeper questions or give you a different little bit more of a insight or perspective than what you touch just looking at the dream interpretation. So there are some spreads and stuff tarot wise that you can use to help with the dream interpretation. I've seen a lot of readers do that. I've played around with some that I actually really liked. But again, I usually don't need it for the cards. I just kind of I like to do them separately, but it's kind of fun to do them together sometimes too.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to a whole nother point. As a tarot reader myself, I wonder if you agree with me. When I'm reading tarot, it's more of a confirmation, right? Like I already am getting this information. And I think what tarot does for me is it puts it into words. Because when I'm receiving the vibration, when I'm channeling, it can be hard for me to interpret it always clearly. What the tarot cards do for me is it's not that the tarot cards are giving me the answer, it's I turn the tarot card over and it resonates with something I'm already feeling. Is that kind of how it works for you as well?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It's kind of have like having like a landing place
Yes,
for
absolutely.
you to kind of, like you said, put things to words. I kind of joke around and tell people like your dreams are kind of like your inner tarot cards.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is sometimes people will they'll tell me a story about something that happened in their life after they've told me their dream, and I'll be like, look, do you realize what you just said? Like that totally matches up with the meaning of this dream. Like you said, people don't realize that sometimes they already know the answers or they're connecting things that they don't realize they're connecting. And I'll point it out and they're like blown away that they knew. I said, how, see, you knew to say that somehow,
Right,
didn't you?
right.
You know?
Perspective is everything. You can't see how
Yeah.
many trees are in the forest if you're standing in the middle of the forest. It can be very helpful to have someone who's got a little bit of a different perspective, a little outside of the forest to say, hey, you're almost to the end here. You're doing good. So, readers in general, I think readers, tarot readers, channelers, all of us, we're just kind of there to help you shift perspective. Everyone listening, we're not there to give you the answer. We're there to help you find the answer. And we're going to work with you and not do it for you. There's no power in me or Laura or anyone else just doing it for you. The power comes from you recognizing that you can do it too. It's all inside of you. We're just here to hold your hand and tell you it's going to be okay while you do it, I guess. um, you have mentioned before that dreams help you better understand your own inner world. Can you share one that was especially impactful for you, or can you think of an example of one?
Oh yeah. I had one that completely changed my life when it came to dream interpretation. So when I was in probably my early 20s, I had been reading a book on dream interpretation. It was one of those times I was going back into reading and learning more about it. And I wish I could tell you what the book was. I can't remember the title. I can't I've been trying to figure it out forever and I can't because I would love to go back and reread the whole thing again. But there was one specific thing in the book that really stood out to me and just kind of blew my mind. And it said that every being in your dream represents an aspect of yourself. And I sat there and I thought about that and I was like, whoa, that is so cool. Because I love the deep stuff like that and the deep conversations and the things that really make you dig down and think a little deeper. But it just really got to me. Literally that night, because that was something that was very impactful for me that I read. I was having a dream where I was trying to get somewhere and I had to go under a building. It was like kind of like a construction area, but it was under a building where the building had like cinder blocks and dirt. And I had to get through this underspace to get to the other side to get to wherever it was I was going. And there were some sketchy characters under there. It was kind of scary. And I don't know if you remember the old movie Ghosts with like Whoopi Goldberg and stuff, but like
Yeah, of
you
course.
know the you know the angry guy?
Yes. Yes.
He had the trench coat on and the curly hair, and he was just
Yeah.
like scary. There was a guy that looked a lot like him, and my first instinct in my dream was like, "Oh my God, I gotta get the heck away from him." And I wanted to run. For some reason, I had almost like a lucid moment where I remembered what I read in the book, that every being in your dream is an aspect of yourself. And I repeated that to myself and I said, wait a minute, there is no way that guy is an aspect of me. There's just no way. And so instead of being scared, I got really curious and brave and I decided to go confront this dream character. And so I walked up to him and I somehow like I understood like because I took the time to connect, I understood the feeling that he was creating for me in the dream, that anger feeling he had, and I immediately realized, oh my God, like I'm feeling like I'm not being heard. And I was angry about that. And I didn't even realize like that's something I was even really angry about, but I put it all together like from the emotion that he emanated in the dream. And I just had this really healing moment with myself. And I walked up to the character and I gave him a hug and I said, "You are loved, you are heard, you are cared about." And like the character completely changed and he wasn't angry anymore and he was kind of shocked, but he just completely became nice. And I just woke up from that dream and it just really stuck with me. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And I actually went to an AI tool not too long ago and recreated the scene, like typed in the descriptions and
Yeah.
everything, and came up with a picture that looked very, very close and similar to the dream. And there's just something magical about looking at something that was in my head forever and seeing it through like AI creating the image for me. And so it was just like it's always stuck with me. And now I know like when people have dreams where they're having characters in it, I use this example a lot and I help them. I'm like, well, what's that character in that dream making you feel?
Yeah.
Because that's where it's coming from, something connected in your life that's making you feel similarly.
Yeah, I love that. That's something I tell a lot of my clients. And when they ask me about dreams, especially particularly dreams about disasters, destruction, they're very worried when they talk to me about this. And I try to tell them, be careful of the imagery. Your brain is trying to make sense of something that isn't necessarily sensical. And so it can scramble the images sometimes, but the feeling is always there. So pay attention to how you feel in that dream. There's a very different message if you're in a car driving through a tornado and you're freaked out in the car and you're not freaked out in the car. Those are two very different things. So don't get too hung up in the visuals, right? Because our human brains, our perceptions are so limited. And when we are in the astral realm, we have none of those limitations. And you're trying to squash that down through your little human brain, and it's kind of hard to do. So sometimes I think this is why images come out so garbled and strange because we're trying to make sense out of something that our brain is just like, what the heck are you talking about? Like one of those things. That's really interesting. Do you lucid dream very often?
I really don't actually. I people have asked me about it or they assume that I want to. And to be honest, I want to get whatever messages that come naturally that I need. Because I look at dream interpretation as like basically a form of shadow work.
Yeah.
And whatever it is that I'm going through in my daily life that I might not be as aware of or that I might not realize is affecting me more, I want to get that information at night. And I think a lot of people get confused on what lucid dreaming is as well.
Yeah.
And
You want to clear
it's
that up
basically
for
just,
us?
yeah, sorry.
No, you're
Um,
good.
it's it's basically just being aware that you are sleeping and then having that power to kind of dream about whatever you want. It happens very, very rarely for me. And when it does, like 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna fly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've heard a couple different techniques that people say. One technique was to create a totem for yourself. Something unusual and strange that if you saw it in your dream, it would get enough of your attention for you to recognize that you were dreaming. Something like for me, the first totem I chose was a green rabbit. I thought if I see a green rabbit, I'll know that's bizarre and it'll get my attention. I don't lucid dream hardly ever. I don't know that I ever have. I've become lucid in a dream for a split second once or twice, but I've never really had full engagement in a dream. So I don't think it's very common, like you said. I think it's something that some people are skilled at and some people can do. And I think some people we just, maybe not. And that's okay. That's okay. The messages are still there. You don't have to be lucid in your dream to receive your message. And sometimes I think that's better. When you become lucid, you might start meddling in what they're trying to tell you instead of just receiving the message.
Well, sometimes I've heard of people being very empowered to learn how to lucid dream because they have a lot of nightmares and they don't want to have the nightmares anymore. So it's a way for them to get their power back. But I also think that that's kind of skirting around the whole problem, creating the nightmares and the dreams. But sometimes I feel like there are certain cases where people have a lot of anxiety or PTSD or trauma that you can't work through overnight. And, just so they're able to get some decent sleep and not feel all that anxiety in their dreams, they literally research different ways and learn how to lucid dream so they can, get through sleeping and not have such a horrific time
Yeah.
with their dreams.
Yeah.
So just
There's
pretty
so many
interesting
different
stuff.
layers to it. So many different layers to it.
Hmm.
So I'm curious, what is your like general process when someone brings a dream to you? How do you begin to kind of go through this and pull it apart and help them understand what's underneath all those layers?
I love this question so much because I didn't even ask myself this until I decided I wanted to write my book because I had to sit down and think like, what the heck is my process? How do I figure this out, right? So I had to come up with a way to explain it to people where they'd be able to, understand it and be able to have a little bit of a process with it. Some of it is a little claircog for me. It's just an automatic knowing. I just get like a flash of like I can envision myself in their shoes, understand what that would feel like in the dream, and then I kind of connect the dots. But kind of going through that process to for the book I made to teach others is I look at when they'll tell me the whole dream. And every dream, we have an environment of some kind. We have some sort of movement happening. We have dream characters, and then we have some sort of special tools or symbols that are helping us or blocking us from something. So I really broke that down in my book to highlight, if you look at these four things, we can make dream interpretation really, really more attainable because that's really the whole point is looking at the main bread. The rest of it's just it can be kind of filler. Everything has messages in it, and you can go as deep as you want with it and figure out everything, or you can look at like the overall message of the dream that you need to kind of get and kind of go from there. It just depends on everyone's comfort level and how much they're willing to go deep with it. But the environment is usually showing us our frame of mind around how we're feeling about something. um, how we're moving in a dream is telling us how we feel we're moving through something. So are you in an airplane and it's not taking off? Is there a project you are working on that you feel like isn't going anywhere? Like these are things that always connects to something that we're going through or processing, through our lives. So those are a couple of quick examples. The movement's my favorite and the environment's my favorite ones to talk about. Dream characters are harder. They can
Yeah.
be more complex, but it's just super fun, and I like to simplify it and kind of give you a direction of let's start here and look at these things first.
That's great. And I'm sure you tell people too, like as you're talking to them, they'll probably have their own ideas coming up and it's about meshing those together, right? Figuring things out. So I have a kind of interesting question. So there's a Bruce Springsteen song, and in the song, he has a line that says, "If you die in your dreams, you die in your bed." And that's something that has, for some reason, stuck in my head forever. So, what's a common symbol people often misunderstand, and how can you help them reframe it? And I think that's one of the big ones. Like, I've only ever had one dream that I can recall that I actually remember dying in the dream. I died in the dream. But when I did, it was like, it was not a big deal. It was like, I knew I was going to die. I said, "Oh, it's time to go." And I just went. And it was not a thing at all. So I'm very curious how you interpret something like a death in a dream and what's the most misinterpreted thing that you can think of people bring to you.
Yeah, no, those are great questions. So whenever we dream where there's a death happening, whether it's ourselves or somebody else, another character or critter or anything, it's usually signifying an end to something or a transformation of something. So, I know not everybody knows tarot. I know you do, but think of like the death card in tarot. It's you can actually look at certain tarot cards and it has similar meanings to dream interpretation as well. And that's why I love mixing both of those sometimes.
Yeah.
But so I would say, and it's interesting because you said you knew you were gonna die and it wasn't a big deal, and you're like, oh, I saw this coming. So I would say whatever was happening in your life at the time that you had that dream and you were going through some sort of transition, or you had the attitude like, well, okay, we're done with that. Like I see it, like we're going on to the next thing, right?
Right.
So, I love the detail with the kind of the mental attitude, because that's a really great thing to note when you're trying to figure out where it's coming from. But as far as like symbols that are often, misunderstood, I get asked a lot about snakes, and I get asked a lot about
Freud in the
X's.
room here.
Yeah, I get asked a lot about exes. Like, why am I dreaming about my ex? I feel like a lot of people think that that's a sign that they should try to get back together with them or reach out. And it's like, I'm
Right.
sorry to crush your expectations on that, but it probably more than likely doesn't mean that. I kind of look at deceased people and exes as similar meanings in dreams, because a lot of that is just processing the end of relationships, grieving somebody in your life that was once really, really important to you. They're very similar. I just say, I know when I get out of a relationship, I go through a period of like introspection and trying to figure out where everything went wrong, what I could have done better, what they did wrong, what I want for a person going forward on if I meet someone else. And so when you're thinking about those things or you're thinking about that person a lot, that's another reason they could really be popping up in your dream. But yeah, I think a lot of people expect me to be like, oh, you should check in with them and call them. And I'm never going to tell you to call your ex.
Right. Yeah.
But if you think you should do that, if you have a feeling, an intuitive hit that that's why you're dreaming that, then go for it. I don't take that from people. I want people to be empowered and follow their own intuition. But from my perspective, it's more than likely you just processing that or missing them or,
Yeah.
thinking about them.
Yeah, I would agree. And people ask me a lot in tarot too. They want to know, "Oh, can you do a love reading for me?" And I'm going to tell you, always say no. It is not my job to meddle in your love life. That's a very sensitive subject, and I get very uncomfortable with that. If I'm doing a general reading for something, for someone, and something comes up that says, "Hey, pay attention to this" or whatever, then yes, but I am not going to meddle in your love life. That I feel like that is not where I belong, and that is a matter of the heart that you need to listen to you and not anybody else on that issue.
I
Um,
agree.
Something I hear from a lot of people, and I'm curious what you say about this. What do you say to people who say, I can never remember my dreams or I don't dream? What do you say to that? Because my experience in the medical field is that we all dream. We just don't all remember that dream. We must go through that phase in order to get restful sleep, just neurologically. And so we
Mhm.
all dream. It's just the remembering it doesn't always happen. And I'm curious, what do you say to somebody like that? Because I've had so many clients come to me and they're very frustrated. I want to remember, I want to connect, but there's nothing happening. How do you help them with that?
Yeah, believe it or not, that's one of the most common questions I do get asked myself as a dream interpreter is why am I not dreaming? Or how come I don't remember? And the first thing I tell them is, well, first of all, we all do dream. I agree with that. It's part of the sleep cycle. When you're hitting REM, a rapid eye movement, that's where we do most, if not all of our dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I ask people is, okay, what does your sleep look like? Are you constantly waking up in the middle of the night? Are you having disturbances? Are you getting up to pee? Or do you have a partner that's snoring? Do you have like physical things that make your body uncomfortable? It's hard to stay sleeping. What distractions may you have? If they say, they're sleeping great, then the next thing I ask is like, are you on any medications? Because medications and substances of some kind can definitely, alter you remembering your dreams. Sometimes they can make them more vivid than normal too.
Yep.
Um, that's not me saying don't take your medicine. I'm not
Right.
saying that.
No.
I'm just making that very clear, but just saying, if that's something that could be contributing, you can ask your doctor, like, what does this medication, could it affect my sleep cycle or me remembering my dreams? Also, attitude is a big thing. If you tell yourself, I don't remember my dreams, and you just kind of keep that attitude about it, you're not opening the door for your awareness level to, sync up and, connect to that and have more of those memories. So I give people a lot of really good ideas as far as like whatever you can remember, make sure to jot it down because you're giving that awareness attention that it needs to kind of help you remember more later. Talk to your friends about dreams even if you're not remembering, ask them about their dreams. You're bringing dreams up in your awareness is going to help you kind of connect to your dream world a little bit more. I have some YouTube videos that you can, like, little meditations are like 7-10 minutes long that I found very helpful. Having a little bit of a practice, make sure, ask yourself, are you eating well? Are you super stressed? Like, those are things that also can contribute to remembering your dreams. And then the last thing I say, if you are having trouble with your sleep, you may want to consult to see if you may need to see a sleep doctor, because if you have sleep apnea, you're probably not getting good enough rest. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm tired, I can't remember like anything. I'm like,
Right.
what did I
Yeah.
do 3 days ago? What was 3 days ago? I have to
Yeah.
really
I
sit
feel
and
like
think about
that's more and more how I am. But I think
it.
that has more to do with that's a little bit different. When you're tired and you can't remember is a little bit different from the feeling of when you're really going through your spiritual awakening and walking that path. It can help. We can tend to get a little disconnected from the collective time. There's all kinds of reasons for that, but this is a little bit different. If you're not sleeping at night, that can be very detrimental at times. So make sure that you are taking care of yourself, which leads me right into the next question. Do you think all dreams have meanings, or do you think some of it is just mental noise? And if it's not all meaning, some of it's just mental noise, how do you tell a difference?
So I really do believe all dreams have meaning unless there's like maybe some substances involved that might be altering things. And here's the reason why. Um, our dreams are created based on what we're experiencing, what we're thinking about, how we're feeling throughout the day. That's like the bank that it takes the information on to reflect it back to us in our sleep. So I can't say that there's never a time you have a dream it means nothing, but it's coming from somewhere and we're creating it, and it's coming from within us based on our experiences and our emotions and the things that we're processing or even blocking out on purpose, because people do that too. Um, so I if there is ones that don't mean anything, I think it's because it's just probably doing, depending on what's going on in your waking life, you'd really have to look at that because there is a connection. I call it like the waking life connection, and it's trying to figure out where did this dream come from? What's that feeling in my life that's giving me that dream, that stuff for that dream to be created. So, I strongly believe that pretty much all dreams have meaning and that we're creating them.
Yeah, I would agree for the most part. I think if you're sick, if you have like a fever dream, that's not exactly the same because your brain is kind of soaked in hot and it's trying to
Yes.
purge itself. So when you're sick and you have these weird fever dreams, maybe be careful of the interpretation of that one because your body's just freaking out a little bit for a second. But yeah, I agree. I think there's so much deeper meaning that we can find if we look into our psyche. Our dreams are our psyche on display. It's our inner side laying it all out on the table so that we can look at it. And the more we look at that, the more we can learn about ourselves, I think.
I think
Um,
when we're born too, I think we have when we're born, we all have intuition.
yep.
It just, depending on how much you put into it, it grows more. And guess what else we have? We all have dreams,
Yeah.
right? I feel like I look at dreams as kind of like part of your inner compass here to kind of give you an idea of like if you're going off track or what you need to focus on to try to align yourself and, to your highest self.
Right.
That's how I see dreams, but that's because I'm a heavy, shadow worker when it comes to dream stuff. So,
Yeah, I agree. That brings me to a good point, kind of sideways to what we've been talking about. People, a lot of my clients will ask me, how do I work with my clairs, right? Something I think is important for every single person listening to understand is everybody has access to everything. It's like playing the piano. Some people are going to be naturally talented at playing that piano and it takes less work. But if you aren't naturally talented, doesn't mean you can't play. It just means it's going to take a little bit more work from you to attune yourself to what that feels like. But out of all of the clairs, most people I have worked with, out of the thousands of clients I've worked with, most people have one clair that is stronger than the other ones, but it doesn't mean that it is your only clair. So before you get in your head, anyone listening, and talk yourself out of it and say, I don't have this, I don't have that, you do. But it's like learning to work a weak muscle. You have to work with it. You have to play with it. You have to be gentle with it and coax it. You can't force it, but you also can't tell yourself that you can't do it, because if you say you can't, then you won't, right? That's how law of attraction works. Law of attraction is so dang tricky. I tell you, it's easy and hard at the same time. Simple but hard. It's simple but not easy. All you have to do is feel good. Well, that sounds easy, but certainly not when we live in the world we live in sometimes.
yes.
You've really been working on creating a space for people to learn how to interpret their own dreams. And I'm really curious if you can explain to us why you're so driven for that. Why is that so important to you? What has made you want to do that?
Well, I think people are just naturally curious about their dreams anyway. But I learned along the way with kind of all the research I did and all of the aha moments and connecting the dots for me, like why I dreamt things and where it was coming from my waking life. I realized one day I sat and I thought about it and I'm like, oh my God, this is helping me understand myself better. And I feel like it's really it's within you, you're creating it, and you get offered this information, almost every night. And if you're interested in self-growth and you want to just understand yourself better, and maybe you think you understand yourself better, but there always is something more to learn. As you're growing, you change, and what you're attracted to changes, and your whole life can change based on your growth. And so I think that it's just really important to pay attention to yourself as much as we do things on the outside of us, because that can really make or break or help make your life a little easier. You mentioned the law of attraction, right? So like it gives you, like, getting to know yourself better, understanding yourself better can help you with your confidence and just give you a better relationship with yourself. And I feel like everybody kind of craves that, whether they realize that or not. And I just think that if you can look at your dreams and look at that as a way to help you do that, like, you've got everything you need right there. It's just, kind of putting the pieces together and understanding, some of the symbols there, for yourself. So that's why I'm really driven for that. I just want to help everybody understand themselves better so they can, help them grow and help them realize, what the things they really want and who they really want to be. And that's just important to me as a person.
Yeah. And it's something you wanted for yourself as well, which is,
Yes.
when we're thinking about working in spirituality, a lot of people ask me, I don't know what I should do. I don't know what I should do. And my biggest piece of advice for anyone is fill the hole you felt. Because if you felt that hole, someone else feels that hole. So for you, you were looking for dream interpretation. You were looking for connection through your dreams and you felt a hole in there. So you filled the hole with what you learned. And now you have that to offer to other people. It makes you sort of an expert in that area because you've filled the hole because you needed it. And anyone who's looking to work in the spiritual community, what you needed most when you came out into your awakening, work there, because that's where your passion is going to be found and you'll fill that gap for someone else as well. Can you tell us a little bit about, so you do a couple different things. So you've written a book, which is amazing, and I have it and I've used it. And then you also have a monthly dream journal meetup. So can you talk about those two things for us real quick?
Yeah. I the book I wrote, as I mentioned, I wanted to put it into practice for anyone that wants to learn how or start learning how to interpret their own dreams, like where they can start. And it's like a dream journal, a dream dictionary, and kind of like a shadow workbook all in one. It's very unique. I've never seen anything like it. Um, but I love having that out there because, I'm not here to, just make a dime off of this. I want to give you the tools so you can do it yourself. That's the whole point. I just want to help people, like I said, get to know themselves better. So I love having that option out there if people want to give it a go. And the
What's the
the
name of your,
actual
can you tell everybody what the name of your book is?
yeah, it's interpreting your dreams, and then it says your personal guide to life and dream alignment
And they can
because I
find
wanted
that
to kind of
on.
you can find it on Amazon.
All right, awesome. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew where to find it.
I wanted to close the gap and not just make it just a dream interpretation book, not another one of those, but I wanted to make it a little extra special and show you how you're gonna connect your dreams to your life and your life to your dreams. I felt
Yeah.
like that was something that was really lacking in the
Yes.
Dream Space book.
I agree. I
Um,
think that's what I like about your book so much is it's much more interactive. It's not just read and get a definition. It's like think about it. Let's go through this. Let's sort of talk about this. It's more interactive and brings the person into the decision and what they're figuring out instead of just telling them this is what it is.
Yeah, and the reason why I do it that way is because you had mentioned that sometimes dream dictionaries could be kind of confusing or frustrating at the beginning. And the reason is because not if you look something up in a dream dictionary, that one symbol isn't going to always mean that one thing for everybody
Right.
because if I'm dreaming about a snake and I like snakes, and you're dreaming about a snake and you're scared of snakes, that's two completely different feelings from a dream. It's coming from a different place. It's not going to necessarily mean the same thing.
Right.
So, what I do is I put the questions out in the book for you to answer what that dream symbol is meaning for you to help you get to know yourself in your own inner dream dictionary, basically. And that really helps, everyone that's trying to do this kind of build that up for themselves. Um, as far as the dream journal group, so one of the things I talk about with helping you remember your dreams is talking about your dreams, I mentioned, right? And I sat there and I thought about it and I was like, it'd be really cool to have a space where people could come and just sit and talk about their dreams. And like for the people that are doing dream journaling that have like years of dream journal entries, like, what do you do with that? Right? So I
Right.
thought, how cool and fun would it be to like have like a group where we can meet up and like talk about those dream journal entries and just like learn a little bit of dream interpretation and just have folks that you can share those things with to help you connect to your dream space a little bit more. And that's pretty much what we do. And that's through my friend Courtney's meetup. And we do it once a month. It's usually the third Tuesday of every month in the evening. So if anyone's interested in that, it's under Tucked in Tarot on the Meetup app or website. We love new people and coming, and it's just like really chill and laid back, and we just have a blast. And
Is there a
sometimes I
way?
actually,
Oops, sorry, I
oh,
didn't
go
mean
ahead.
to interrupt you. Is there a way to get it like on a list, an email list or something so people know when you're going to meet for sure? Or
Yeah, so if you sign up under the meetup, you'll have access to all of Courtney slash Tucked in Tarot's meetup classes and things, and she'll send out letters and stuff, and you could see the
oh, great.
calendar events that she has.
Oh, wonderful.
Um, yeah.
So a question that a viewer wanted me to ask you is, are there certain times of the month, moon phases, or energy shifts where dreams tend to be more vivid or more symbolic than usual?
Oh, I believe so. Yes. A couple of really great examples. So I notice like when there's like new moons or astrological events happening, it like really gears up like on TikTok and everybody's lives and stuff and I keep seeing over and over again, I had really crazy dreams last night. And so I really feel like that we all I really feel like it affects everybody more than you may realize, like when those things happen, but also and even with like the Schumann report that you do, I feel like you even point out yourself like, oh, we've had this surge of energy, and let me tell you, my dreams were off the charts.
Yeah,
And so I love that you kind of put that together yourself when you're talking about that. I love it. But another thing would be also like menstruation cycles,
hmm,
because your hormones are not quite balanced. They're going through, they're spiking at a certain point, right?
right.
So those, just like, stress and diet and medications and things are, if our hormones are spiking at a certain point, that can make we can be extra emotional during the day, and that can trigger more vivid or kind of like wild dreams as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. It triggers a whole lot of wild, just in general. I think it triggers a whole lot of wild.
Yes.
So another question from a viewer I had is if someone's been haunted by a dream for years, that they have a recurring dream, what's one thing you'd say to help them to start unpacking that? And is there a purpose to a recurring dream?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. If there's a dream that's really haunted you and stuck out, this is what I say. First of all, journal it out. Like, write out as much as you can remember. Sometimes when we're writing things out and we're reading it back, it triggers even more memories that we kind of forgot about, and you can add those too.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's where you can really kind of start dissecting things. Like, if you look at the environment and the movement and the different things like that I have for an example, you can really kind of start getting to the bottom of that. But also, the best advice I have too is think about what was going on in your life during the time that you had that haunting dream. And you can kind of start putting two and two together and realizing, oh, I had this huge life change happening, around that time. So actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that that freaked me out like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think people are reluctant to admit that their life is affecting their dreams because we want it to be source is giving me all this wonderful information, which is true. But source is also pointing out that you need to fix your life, right? Like source is saying, hey, let's get some balance. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. We do have a physical life that we need to take care of. And I think dreams are a great bridge in between our etheric and our physical. It's a great communication space. As energetic beings, when we lay down and our physical body goes to sleep, our energy is not sleeping. It is leaving
Mhm.
that body and it's traveling and learning and doing all kinds of things. And those dreams, I think, are some of the pictures that we get as we go through this. I truly believe that when we dream, if we're dealing with something difficult, we kind of go to a space where we can work on that in a area that doesn't have the same restrictions that we have here in the physical 3D, right? So if you're struggling with a certain thing, a certain concept, let's say self-worth, right? The same one everybody deals with. If you're struggling with the concept of self-worth, I believe that sometimes when we enter the astral state, when we're dreaming, we go to, I call it the holodeck, where you can create a scenario and work this out for yourself. Because in your physical life, you aren't able to necessarily do that. So you can go into the dream space and create the scenario you need to see what you need to see. It's kind of like role play, right? You go through the role play so that you can see, oh, this is what's going on, this is what I need to do. Then you take that and apply it where you are. That's kind of how I feel about some stuff. I'm curious what you think about that because I have never told anybody that before, and I don't even know why I told you that just now. But I feel like I've been thinking like that for a long time. It's like a holodeck kind of where you can work out things that you're struggling with sometimes.
Actually, I've never thought of it that way. That's really, really interesting. I might have to think deeper on that
Yeah.
later. But my first reaction is I could kind of see that. But it kind of is a little bit of the opposite of kind of how I see it a little bit. And the way I see it is I agree that dreams are us trying to like process things and work it out and it's giving us an opportunity to get over things
Yeah.
or work through things. But I also see that as direct reflections of how we're feeling, because sometimes I mean, dreams don't always end well, right?
Right. Right.
We want them to end well, but they don't always. And for the most part, actually, they probably don't more than not. But I think that it's like the whole purpose of like those dreams that like really freak us out. It's our subconscious, just like really, really trying to get your attention. Hey, this is really, really bothering you. Um, And it's just so the way I explain it, it's like charades. Like you
Yeah.
ever play charades? It's like your subconscious is like throwing images out there to get you to understand the feelings that you're trying to process during the day, and bring that back and reflect it back to you. So I think reflecting in hologram deck and things, I think that that's actually like kind of more similar than what
Yeah,
I
I
thought
think that
originally.
could
So
work together really well because,
makes sense.
in the
Yeah.
etheric space, let's think about this. If in the etheric space there are no rules, there's no physical restrictions, right? So if we go to this, let's say holodeck and we start working through this and we're remembering that in our human brain, perhaps that's what changes things up a little bit because we're not able to translate fully everything we were doing in that holodeck. So it kind of comes out a little bit strangely. That's why the feeling is so important because the imagery isn't always clear. So I don't know, just something to think about, something that kind of popped up a little bit that I felt like I needed to say for some reason. Uh,
No, I'm glad you shared that because I'm going to think about that more now. I might have to message you sometime and be like, hey, I had an idea about that.
yeah, well, I'm here for it. So the other thing I want to ask you about, so I've had three past life regressions through hypnosis. And when I did the first one, the woman who did it for me, she told me, now your dreams are going to change because you've kind of opened a doorway. And because your subconscious is linked to everything, you may start having memories come up, past life memories that come up in your dream space. And I said, well, how do I know the difference? And what she told me is a past life dream, a past life memory in a dream is very, very tactile and very, very real. She said you
Mhm.
will be able to smell things, feel things, see things. You'll be able to, it's not as garbled, it's not as abstract. It's very much like being somewhere else and you just happen to be there. I've had that happen to me two or three times since I had those regressions. And both times that it happened, it was incredibly powerful, like unbelievably powerful. And I'm really curious what you think about that and how you kind of look at that as far as the subconscious being opened, like a gateway or something through hypnosis. Do you feel like any of that could have something to bear on how it would change your dreams?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. When it comes to dreams, I don't have any like hard walls or super hard rules because I feel like dreamland's kind of limitless.
Right.
And I also feel like there's so much more about spirituality and things like that that we can't comprehend or that we don't have the awareness of here. So, like you mentioned, kind of having that link between the two, the dream space, you can do that, and I do agree with that. I actually had to make a list. It's so interesting, like what questions come to me, because I'll kind of like with tarot and other modalities, I'll have people come to me with like three or four times within like a week or two with the same questions or the same types of dreams or the same situations, and I had people come to me that had past life dreams and they were really kind of blown away by it, but they really kind of wanted the confirmation. I feel like they kind of knew, but they
Yeah.
wanted a dream expert or someone to say, yes, I could definitely back you up that that sounds like a past life,
Right.
dream. And I agree. Are you riding a unicorn on a rainbow, or are
Right.
you are you are you on fire watching a village? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
So I
exactly.
feel like that's the big difference. Also, like if you're seeing yourself, like, but you look different, but you know it's you, and you're kind of a character with other characters, and you feel like you really know the people, and it's just real things that are happening and not like, crazy out of the wall things that wouldn't be real. Yeah, I agree. Like those are really telltale signs. Also, just remembering it and like you said, the senses and just like it feeling really, really, really real. I definitely encourage like recording those down, recording the dates that you're having them. And I do think like if you do have like the regressions, it can definitely help you open that up because you brought it to your awareness level at a state when you were awake. And so now
Right.
you opened up a door to dream world that's something you're thinking about and being aware of during the day. Now that can come in at night too.
Yeah, she kind of
So
explained it to
100%.
me. Yeah, she kind of explained it to me. She said it's like a closet full of clothes and they're just shoved in there. Well, now you've opened the door. So sometimes they're going to fall out, and it's
Hmm.
just movement of energy. That's all it is. But it's never anything to be fearful of. You're nothing to be afraid of at all. Um, I have had a really fantastic conversation with you, and I think this has been absolutely lovely. I wish I could sit and talk to you for hours, but I can't. So, as we wrap up, what is the one piece of advice that you have for people, just in general, with their spirituality, with their journey, that sort of thing? What's the one piece of advice you have for them? And then give everybody a quick rundown of where they can get a hold of you and the name of your book and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I feel like the best advice I can give you is no matter what, is learning to trust yourself, your intuition, period. If you don't trust, if you have to question, if you have to rely on others to know if it's right, then you know you have something to work on there. Because once you have that basic solid block down, like then you can kind of move on to the next step and start opening up the doors to other things for growth. It took me a while to kind of do that myself, but once I did, it was like, holy crap, the gateways opened for me, and I was like, let's do this. This is so exciting.
Yeah.
Um, and same for dreams. It's really trusting. Did I really feel that? How did that make me feel? It's again getting to know yourself and growing on those things as well. Um, I do. I'm not on TikTok a lot. I have a full-time job. I'm basically a single mom now. I'm a divorcee, and so I've got, a lot of things, but I try to get on TikTok at least once or twice a week and do some lives. And then always I will be always and forever doing the Dream Journal Club, for the foreseeable future. So you can always you can get my book on Amazon, Interpreting Your Dreams, Laura Meleney. Um, and bring it to the Dream Journal Club. If you have questions, like you can have access to me on a monthly basis if you want to come to the meetup or if you want to follow me on TikTok and pop in and ask me questions there. But I also have where you can sign up for readings if you want to have a private conversation. We could totally do that as well. And that's all found in like my Linktree stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah, Laura is amazing. She is the person that helped give me so much clarity about my dreams, and she is always the person I recommend. If someone asks me, "Oh, I want to learn about my dreams," you are where I send them. Your book has been incredibly helpful, and I just want to point out something that I learned in my professional life, that the mark of a good teacher is that they want their student to outgrow them. They want their student to move on, to do it on their own. They're not trying to keep you stuck with them. So the tools that you're offering really demonstrates that feeling, and I'm really glad to see it. So, Laura, thank you so much for today. I appreciate this, and it has been an absolute joy talking to you. You're so fun.
I'm honored you invited me on, and I appreciate you as well.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure you check out Laura's book and her websites and all the stuff, all in the show notes. I will have all the links that you need to find her. Check her out. Catch it before it's gone. Have a great day, everybody.